Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our panel on how to earn your LLM or MSL in animal law online through Lewis and Clark Law School. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Pam Hart, and I am the Assistant Director and Executive Director here at the Center for Animal Law Studies. And today I'll be joined by Reddy and Senatori, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about each of them. First up, Reddy is the director of our animal law program, and notably, Raj earned his JD with a certificate in animal law here from Lewis and Clark, where he also served on the boards of the Lewis and Clark Animal Legal Defense Fund chapter and the Animal Law Review. Given his experience as an animal law student, professor, and advisor, one of his duties as program director is to coordinate the animal law curriculum, which he'll be providing an overview of shortly. Next up, you'll be hearing from Senatori. She is the Associate Director here at the Center for Animal Law Studies. And prior to joining us in 2019, Megan was a litigator in private practice for almost 2 decades, including practicing animal law. In addition to outreach and communications, Megan focuses on organizational goals, priorities, and innovations to support and facilitate the growth of the Center for Animal Law Studies. She is also one of our adjunct professors. So what we're going to be talking about today is a little bit of background about the Center for Animal Law Studies right here at Lewis and Clark, followed by an overview of our online advanced degree programs. Then we'll be sharing some exciting updates on the kind of animal protection work our alumni in action all around the world are focusing on. We'll also share some upcoming events, developments, and ways we can all stay connected. And then we'll wrap it up with a Q&A session. So by way of background, the Center for Animal Law Studies was founded in 2008. And our mission is to educate the next generation of animal law advocates and to advance animal protection through the law. And we achieve this mission by offering a world-class animal law curriculum, which is being taught by some of the best and brightest scholars and academics in the field. Now, on this next slide here, you'll see some of these international animal law experts that are highlighted and that you'll be learning from should you decide to study with us at Lewis and Clark Law School. These experts include Pamela Hart, who teaches animals in the law, Erica Lyman, who teaches global wild animal law, Paul Locke teaches law and animal testing, Russ Mead teaches emerging topics in animal law, David Rosengard teaches crimes against animals. And of course, we have Reddy, who will be speaking in a moment, who teaches international animal law, and Megan Senatori, who teaches our companion animal law course. So next up, I would like to just briefly give you a little bit of background about our history. As I mentioned, we were founded in 2008, and the Center for Animal Law Studies is a collaboration between Lewis and Clark Law School and the Animal Legal Defense Fund. Before this collaboration, Lewis and Clark Law School had been a leader and pioneer in the field since 1992. So we like to refer to ourselves as the home of the firsts. And some of these firsts include the first legal journal that's devoted exclusively to animal law. This is called our Animal Law Review. We also are home to the first student animal law organization, the Lewis and Clark Animal Legal Defense Fund chapter. And last but not least, the longest running animal law conference called the Animal Law Conference. And we're celebrating our 30th year this year, in fact, and I know Megan will be sharing a little bit more information about that later on. Continuing with the home of the first, we have the world's first dean of animal law. And as I mentioned earlier, we have the most extensive animal law curriculum in the world. Raj will be talking about that in a moment. The first and only advanced degree in animal law. And with the launch of our MSL, the first MSL degree for animal law in the United States. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Reddy, where he can talk more about our advanced degree programs focusing on the LLM and MSL. Raj?
Thanks so much, Pam. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the MSL and the LLM, and I'll start with the LLM. It was launched in 2012, and it's designed for international animal law graduates or international graduates and attorneys. And the LLM is really directed towards those folks who want to practice animal law, who want to teach animal law, or who are interested in academia, research, and policy. And so far, we have approximately 50 graduates from our Animal Law LLM program who have come to Lewis and Clark from more than 20 countries. And that number is dramatically growing now with our online program. And the MSL was launched just this year, and it's the first advanced legal degree for non-lawyers in the US, as Pam mentioned. And it's designed for those folks who have a bachelor's degree and are seeking to focus on animal law and animal advocacy. And that could happen through teaching, research, academia, advocacy, policy work, and more. And again, just like with our LLM, this program is available in person and online. So the online program is new. We launched our online LLM just last year, and we launched our MSL this year. And both programs are remote, and they're both part-time. So they're designed to be accessible and in a flexible asynchronous format, meaning that you get to take these classes, watching recorded lectures and doing required readings at your own pace through weekly modules. And what this looks like largely in the course of a semester is that the fall and spring terms are comprised of 13 weeks. And in those terms, you'll be taking 2 3-credit courses and 1 1-credit course. And in our summer term, which is a little bit compressed, 2 3-credit courses over 10 weeks. And the program as a whole is designed to see applicants graduate within 4 terms or 18 months. And I've broken it down here for you all. So for those of you who will be applying this fall, regardless of whether you are taking the LLM or the MSL, if you are a MSL student or an international LLM student, what we do is we create a 2-week pre-fall course, an introduction to US legal studies. And within those 2 weeks, you have the you have the ability to complete all of the requirements of the course. But you have beyond that 2-week period, an additional 3 weeks that falls into the regular fall semester, which starts on August 29th and is 13 weeks long. And so during the fall semester, candidates in the program will be taking Global Wild Animal Law with Professor Erica Lyman and Crimes Against Animals with Professor David Rosengard. And we also, another required course is Emerging Topics in Animal Law. And we'll see with this particular course, some MSL students and some LLM international students have the option to defer that particular course to fall of 2023, just because they might be completing the requirements for that pre-fall course, that Introduction to US Legal Studies. And then in the spring, students will be taking Animals in the Law, Industrial Animal Agriculture Law, Emerging Topics in Animal Law B. And in the summer, we have Aquatic Animal Law and the Law and Ethics of Animal Testing. And again, that's a compressed 10-week semester. And then fall of 2023, which is when, if you apply and are accepted and come to take the LLM or the MSL, you would graduate at the end of fall 23, taking International Animal Law with me and Companion Animal Law with Professor Senatori. And if you didn't take Emerging Topics in Animal Law A in fall of 22, then you would be taking it here in fall of 2023. And just as a little bit of an overview as to what a prospective week would look like in the program, this comes from my International Animal Law course. And these courses are comprised of 13 weeks, each week being a module. And so the modules open on Fridays, and from that Friday to the following Thursday, so 7 days, Students watch 1 to 2 hours of recorded lectures. They read 3 or 4 hours of required readings. In my international animal law course, there's just a multiple choice quiz to make sure that students are grasping sort of the important details from the readings. And they receive a number of questions, of which they choose 1 or 2 to respond to in a discussion board. And that takes them approximately 30 minutes to do, or at least that's the recommended amount of time. And then from Friday to Sunday, they're required to respond to 1 or 2 of their peers' initial posts, and that takes them approximately 15 minutes per post. And so you can think about this, 1 course, 3 credits, you'll have another one of these courses plus a 1 credit course. And so what a number of students do on those 3 days, that second bullet, is that they work on the next module, which is opening that particular Friday. So there's an opportunity to catch up if need be, or to get ahead if need be in any given week. And we can talk a little bit more about that during the Q&A if you have questions. In terms of the requirements for the LLM program, you have to have a law degree that allows you to practice law or be a judge in your home country, or at least the country where you earned that degree. We don't require an LSAT or GRE. For international applicants, you have to demonstrate English proficiency, and you can do that by proving that English was a primary language of your legal education, and either that English was the official language of that country in which that university is located, or that that university is accredited by a US regional agency. Alternatively, you can have an IELTS score of 8 or higher, or a TOEFL score of 100 or higher. And I've listed some of the application, some of the considerations that we look for in terms of admitting students. And it's basically the scholarly capacity of the applicant, their skills as a lawyer, their academic work so far, their work history, the strength of their references, and we can talk about that in a little bit as well, but also their engagement with animal law issues, whether in an academic or a work setting. For the MSL, again, this degree is designed for non-lawyers, but you have to have a bachelor's degree from an accredited US or international institution. Like with the LLM, we don't require an LSAT or GRE. The English proficiency requirements are the same. And here, the factors that we look at is, again, the applicant's scholarly capacity, their academic performance, work history, strength of references, and again, their engagement with animal law or advocacy issues. And that can be, again, in a work setting, volunteer setting, academic setting, and so on. And so I've sort of put out the application materials required to apply here, but they both include a statement of interest, resume, transcripts from all institutions of higher education, at least 1 letter of recommendation, and for international students, an English proficiency requirement. And for the MSL, we also require a writing sample. In terms of the costs of the program for this particular academic year, this fall 2022 and spring 2023, the tuition comes to $19.82 per credit, and there's an approximately 4% tuition increase each summer. And what we strive to do here at CALS is to make the program affordable for any student who's accepted. And so any candidate who submits their applications by the deadline, they're automatically considered for any scholarship support that we have to offer. And the majority of our admitted students receive either a partial or full scholarship. So just some important dates to keep in mind. Again, July 15th is the application deadline. August 15th for MSL students and international LLMs, that's when that 2-week Introduction to US Legal Studies course opens. And you have the ability, again, to complete all of the requirements for this Introduction to US Legal Studies course within those 2 weeks before you have to take on any of the burdens of any other classes. But you also, again, have 5 full weeks to complete the requirements for that course. And then for all students, August 29th is when the regular fall semester will begin. And so students who are admitted will be taking Global Wild Animal Law, Crimes Against Animals, and again, emerging topics in Animal Law A. save for those MSL and international LLMs who wish to defer that course to fall of 23. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Professor Senatori.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. So one of the questions we often receive about our advanced degree program is, well, what does one do with an advanced degree in animal law? And the best way for us to answer that question is to just show you the amazing work that our alumni are doing. So as Dr. Reddy said, we have over 50 alumni now from more than 20 countries. And what we've done here is we've just chosen a few to try to demonstrate the geographic diversity and the type of work that they're doing. When I'm done presenting, I will put into the chat our Alumni in Action link, and that will give you all of our alumni and the work that they're doing across the world to help animals. And it's really an impressive list. So let me start with Jessica Chapman. Jessica is one of our superstars, and she graduated in 2021 with her LLM from us. Her interests include protecting non-human animals from human-induced exploitation, and she someday wants to start a nonprofit that focuses on past learned violence and the intersection, past learned violence in animal industries and the intersection with spikes in community violence. Jessica received our Outstanding Animal Law LLM Award, and since she graduated with us, she has been hired as an Animal Legal Defense Fund Program Fellow. Raj, if you could advance to that slide. I will talk at the end about our animal law conference in the fall, but Jessica will be one of our speakers on the criminal justice panel. So that's Jessica. And in case I didn't mention, Jessica is a student from the United States. Another student we'd like to feature is Alice DiConcetto. Alice is a 2016 alumni of our LLM program from France. And her topics of interest included founding the European Institute for Animal Law and Policy following graduation with us. She has a particular interest in focusing on shedding light on the treatment of animals in the clothing industry. And she has really become an expert in European Union law on animal advocacy and farmed animal welfare. Among the work that Alice has done since graduation, if I could have you advance the screen, Dr. Reddy, is that she helped to create a new database of laws and policies that impact farmed animals. She did that just this year, working with the Collar Animal Law Forum. So we can go to the next alumni. And this is a recent alumni, Vanessa Gishkow-Garbini, just graduated with us in May. And she was the first recipient of the Joyce Tischler Scholarship. Joyce Tischler, for those of you who don't know her, is affectionately referred to as the mother of animal law. She teaches our industrial animal agriculture law class in the online program, and she is a true gem and trailblazer in this field. We're also fortunate to have her part of the team. So Vanessa received that scholarship. She has a particular interest in international animal law. And Dr. Reddy, if you could advance the slide. Among the work that she did is she worked with Dr. Reddy and actually another of our students, Marcia, who's also pictured here, in developing the next draft of the Convention on Animal Protection for Public Health, Animal Welfare, and the Environment. And Vanessa has been, will be starting in the fall as a Harvard Animal Law Fellow. We can go to the next person. Hira Jalil is another one of our superstars. Hira is a graduate from our 2020 Animal Law LLM class from Pakistan. And she is in private practice, helping animals, in particular, providing legal advice for clients who are threatened with eviction and seizure of their companion animals. She also assists nonprofit animal welfare organizations. And like so many of our other alumni, if I could have you advance the slide there, Raj, she is also interested in animal law and academia, and she taught Pakistan's first ever animal law course just this past spring. We can go to the next person. Next, we have Magistrate Gladys Camasanyu. Gladys is a 2020 alumni from our Animal Law LLM program, and she is the head of Africa's first and only specialized wildlife court. There, she adjudicates wildlife cases involving wildlife products. She works on climate change and the impact of wildlife trafficking on climate, and she trains judges and prosecutors. She also has founded her own nonprofit, as so many of our alumni do, working with Professor Russ Mead, who is part of our online program. He mentored Gladys through the process of starting Help African Animals. And if you could advance the slide there, Raj. And that is a nonprofit that helps animals in her home country of Uganda. So with that, we'll go to the next one. Diego Plaza is a 2020 alumni of our program from Chile. He, like Gladys and others, started his own nonprofit following studying with us. He is the founder of the Center for Chilean Animal Law Studies, which is CIDA Chile, the founder of the Interspecies Justice Foundation, and he proposed the creation of the first animal legal publishing house in Chile. He is also a featured speaker on aquatic animal law and other topics. You'll see him and so many of our alumni presenting at webinars and seminars as animal law legal experts. I want to also give to you the Alumni in Action link, which is on our website, and that will provide you a robust list of all of our alumni and the type of legal work that they're doing to help animals. I didn't even scratch the surface. We have Ever Chinoda in Zimbabwe. We have Jim Karani in Kenya. So many alumni doing great work, and we also can't wait to see what the students who graduate with their MSL degree with us, our non-lawyer advocates, will do for animals. So with that, I'm gonna just do a brief look ahead, which is to feature just a few important dates coming up that you can look for with the Center for Animal Law Studies. And if you could advance the slide for that one, Raj. So as Dean Hart mentioned at the outset, annually, the Center for Animal Law Studies and the Animal Legal Defense Fund co-present the nation's premier animal law conference. I am a member of that planning committee and excited to tell you about the conference that we have this year. It is our 30th annual, as we've noted. It is a hybrid event this year, both in person and virtual, November 4th through 6th. We have 10 different panels featuring a wide array of topics, both tracing the progression of animal protection in the animal law movement over the past 30 years, and very importantly, looking ahead to what we can accomplish for animals in the next 30 years. You will see several, many of us from CALS on the panels, as well as some of our alumni who are presenting. Our keynote speaker is Miyoko Schinner, who is the founder and CEO of Miyoko's Creamery. So be on the lookout for that. And then an annual tradition we have at Lewis and Clark Law School is Animal Law Week. We host that every year in March, together with the Lewis and Clark Animal Legal Defense Fund student chapter. And that is a week to highlight our animal law events, tell the world about what animal law is and what an important field it is. And we typically have both in-person events and online events. So for those of you who may join us and be part of our online program, can look forward to usually a few of the events being online as well. If you could advance to the next slide. Stay connected with us. We have lots of great information about our goings on here at the Center for Animal Law Studies on our social media. We are on all of the platforms you see on the bottom: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and we have a YouTube channel where we feature CLE programs about animal law. We also have a quarterly newsletter that you can join to keep up with what has been going on with us at the Center for Animal Law Studies. And we commonly do blogs and news items that we feature on our website as well. So with that, I think we're going to turn it back over to Dean Hart, who will lead us through our Q&A.
Thank you so much, Megan and Raj. I appreciate all that information. We are now opening it up for our Q&A session, as Megan said. So go ahead and pop any questions, comments you have in the Q&A section, and we'll be happy to get the conversation going. So far, I see no questions. So Professor Senatori, oh, here we go. We have a question here. Now here they're coming rolling in. Okay. What is the grade point average requirement for the LLM degree? Professor Reddy, would you like to take that?
Sure. We don't have a minimum GPA that we look for with respect to the LLM or the MSL program. And so in terms of GPA, it is one of the factors, but again, there is no minimum.
Great. So here is a great question, and one that we get asked a lot. And I'll open it up to both of you. But can we talk about earning potential, and how does one, after they get these degrees, go about making a living as an animal protection attorney or advocate? Would one of you like to take that?
Sure, I can take it, and then Raj, if you want to add to anything. I think what the earning potential is varies by the position that the person takes. We have people, as I demonstrated through the Alumni in Action, who go on to work for nonprofits. Some of those positions are in higher level executive positions. Some of them are as staff attorneys or managing attorneys. Other people go on to work in a governmental capacity in agencies to try to help animals. We also have, as I showed with Hira Jalil, someone in private practice. That was my background. I was a commercial private practice litigator for almost 2 years, and I always did pro bono animal law work on the side. So in my particular situation, I was doing pro bono work, but I know that the capacity in the field has certainly expanded since then, and there are all kinds of lawyers now working in private practice that are also helping animals and being compensated that way. So I think the answer probably depends on academia would be another avenue, would depend on what particular avenue you choose. I'm not aware of an analysis of what the earnings potentials are specifically, so I don't have more information that way, but I would say that they are in par with other people working in other nonprofits, private practice. Certainly those of you who are non-lawyers interested in studying with us, if you're a veterinarian or if you work in social work or as an expert witness, all kinds of different things, it would be on par with whatever those particular professions make in any other field would be my reaction to it. And I don't know if Dean Hart or Dr. Reddy, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would say the recommendation that I make to students is, to students and also interested candidates, is, do a Google search. I don't want to presume, what country anybody comes from. So, do a general Google search for particular positions, whether it's animal law, legislation work, or lobbying work, or actual legal practice, and you can see, the salary ranges for those positions, and some of them will be government work, some of them will be nonprofit work, so NGO work, and there might be opportunities as well with animal law being increasingly recognized as an important legal practice to be in private practice and be doing animal law work. So I think that would give you sort of the best answer to that question.
And I'll just briefly add here too, because it is still a relatively young field, the opportunities and the challenges, they're pretty unlimited at this point in time, which makes it a really interesting time to get involved in animal law education protection. And I always recommend that people, pick their passion and look at ways they can create their own opportunities. And you saw those, some of those opportunities in the slides that Megan highlighted, that a lot of people are starting their own nonprofits, are going out and creating their own specialties. And with some innovation and creativity and drive, I believe that a lot of people in our movement, in our field, have created their own opportunities as well. So the next question is, would it be possible to just take one course at a time instead of the 2 to 3 per term?
Yeah, another really great question. Programmatically, what we like to do is ensure that if you enter this fall, that we've done everything we can to make sure that what slate of courses you're going to be expecting the following term and the term after that and the term after that, until you graduate. If you want to underload, which is doable, It might change when you're able to take sort of that last course that you need, that one course that you skip, because it might not necessarily be offered the next sort of semester 5 or term 5, so to speak. And so again, while it is possible, and we would work with you to make the program work for you, we recommend, taking the full sort of part-time load, but we also understand that our students have family obligations and work obligations. And so there would be a need for flexibility on the student's part, but it's something that a number of our candidates right now are doing, underloading.
Thank you. We do have a question here, and maybe briefly, one of you can speak to this, but then also drop it in the chat. Where can I find more information about the applications?
I actually saw that question and I pulled the link. So I'm going to go ahead and put that into the chat. And what this is the link to both the LLM and the MSL page. And if you scroll down to the right, there's you can learn more. And there's information there where you select which program you're interested in. And there's an apply now button where you can start your application.
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of questions, so I'm going to just keep on rolling here. Do your scholarships typically have GPA requirements that you must maintain through each semester?
Another really good question. Let me take a step back to answer this question more fully. All MSL students and all international students are graded on a credit, no credit, and honors basis. And there's no GPA associated with those particular groups. And the rationale is that as international students or students without a legal background, Lewis and Clark doesn't want them to necessarily be competing, so to speak, with students who are from the US and have their JD, so have a significant legal background. And so students on that track are required to pass every course in order to retain their scholarship. And that means getting the equivalent of a 60 or above. For students who are US JD graduates, the requirement is a 2.6 or higher throughout the entirety of their time in the program.
Thank you. Another question is, do we offer tickets to the Animal Law Conference? I can go ahead and answer that. It's really a year-by-year situation, but historically we have offered different opportunities, including going to the Animal Law Conference to our existing students and sometimes our graduates. If you're not currently a student, though, there's not anything that we are offering on that front. Let's see here. Someone was a little late to the start, but she is asking how flexible electives are for the online course.
So right now, the program is very tightly structured in that all of the courses listed are the courses required, or the courses that you would need, or that offer you the credits you need to graduate. And so what we are looking to do going forward is offer an additional class every now and again to offer students some level of flexibility. But what you've seen on the previous screen right now in terms of those course offerings are the courses that we offer. But we do believe that those will grow by one course every term in the next year or two. But that's basically what students can expect to take right now in the program.
Thank you. Regarding the MSL degree, can you elaborate on what would be sufficient for a writing sample for the application?
Sure. So if you're an MSL candidate, chances are you don't have a legal memo to submit, or you probably don't have anything that focuses on a legal issue, and that's totally fine. It could be a paper that you've written for a course during your undergrad or graduate career, anything between 10 to 15 or 20 pages. That would be helpful for the admissions committee to be able to assess the strength of the student's writing, because the program does require in a number of assignment students to complete something that's akin to or very much like a legal memo or a scholarly piece of writing.
Okay, thank you. So here's a question regarding the timing of the semesters and the exams. So the person posed the question, if the seminar for a regular course begins on August 29th and it lasts 13 weeks, so ending approximately November 25th, and if there was a final exam for the course, would a student have to wait until early December to be prepared to do the final exam? Or could it be finished prior to the end of the 13 weeks?
So several of our courses have an exam. For example, in international animal law, there was a 14th week, and students had a few days to prepare for the exam and then 5 or so days to complete the exam. So basically an additional week tacked on to the 13. A number of our courses don't necessarily have an exam, but have short assignments sprinkled throughout the semester. So 2 or 3, for example, memos, or 2 or 3 2 to 3 page writing responses. And so those courses may not have an exam and may not have a 14th week.
If I could just add briefly, some of the courses also, because I know my own was in this bucket, the last time I taught it at least, might do a final project that is not a final exam, so it could be a paper. In my case, it was a hot topic in companion animal law, and students did a memo and recorded a video presentation for the class. So there may also be, in some of the courses, some kind of a final project that would happen at the end of the semester that isn't an exam.
And just to add on to that question with another question in here, are any of the classes graded as pass-fail?
So if you are an MSL candidate or an international LLM candidate, you are automatically in a credit, no credit, or pass-fail grading system. You can also, if you achieve what would be otherwise a B+ or higher, you're eligible to get an honors designation for that particular course.
Great, thank you. And we have a question here asking if we can get a list of the different areas that people practice in that we've talked about in the presentation. I would direct you all to the link that Megan dropped in the chat regarding our Alumni in Action. It will really give you a good flavor and sense of, the spectrum of everything that people are working on. And then Megan, if you can think of any other areas on our website that talk about, I know that, we've written blogs on what do animal law attorneys do, what do animal advocates do. We can gladly share that information as well. And I know a lot of that information is also out on the internet talking about the various paths to becoming an animal protection advocate.
And I am, thank you, Dean Hart, that's perfect, because I'm going to put into the chat a link to a blog on our online site that talks about those different areas of practice, and it includes others that I didn't even mention. And then if you also want to check out the blogs on that page, you'll see there are others that talk about how you might use your degree in different subject matter areas. So we have featured certain courses. My companion animal law course is featured there. Professor Tischler's farmed animal, industrial animal agriculture course is featured there. And Dr. Reddy's international animal law course is featured there. So it also provides a bit of information on how you can use that coursework to further your practice.
Thank you so much. And I think, Raj, you answered most of this, but I just want to share this question that's in a similar vein as a previous one. I understand that the MSL program is roughly 18 months. Is there course load flexibility to either extend or condense the timeline for the completion of the program?
To the extent that we are looking to and are in the process of adding additional courses, a student could take that additional course to complete those credits and graduate more or less ahead of time. But the 18-month or 4-term sort of format is what we imagine most graduates will follow. In terms of sort of lengthening the program, that's again also possible. It requires additional flexibility on the student's part because the courses are offered basically in a cycle. So we need to make sure that that the student is able to take that particular course that they need at a particular time. So again, it just requires a little bit of flexibility on the student's part.
Thank you. And we have a practical question here about the scholarships. They ask if the fully funded scholarships being offered cover flights, accommodations, stipends, etc.
So for our online program, the idea is that the student is taking all of this coursework from wherever they may be. So we have students in Australia, in Kenya, in Zimbabwe, in Europe, and the full scholarship for online students covers their tuition. It doesn't include, flights and other things because it's just not applicable. It also doesn't cover books and any sort of related materials such as internet access and the like.
If I could just add for the prospective student who's interested, we do have, as I think Dean Hart talked about at the beginning, an in-person program. And so for the in-person program, people do come and study with us in Portland on campus. And there are scholarships in that situation as well. And those are different and they cover both full tuition. They do cover some additional things as well, but it just depends on the particular scholarship. So just to note that we also have the in-person option, but today we're focusing on online.
Thank you. So we have another question here about the writing sample. This person has her master's degree. She's in private practice, but she's been engaged in federal lobbying on the animal welfare front for 6 years, and she is a core member of a grassroots coalition. She's written quite a few bills and policy, various appropriations. Could she use one of these pieces as her writing assignment or submission?
Well, that might be a component of a writing sample. What we want to make sure when we're accepting an applicant, and what's really important to the admissions committee, is that that they have a very strong sense of the student's ability to engage in more prose-like format. So in the sense of memos and longer responses, short papers, and the like. And again, these can come from your undergraduate or graduate work, even if it's 5-10 years old. But that's more demonstrative to the admissions committee as to the student's ability to engage in an online format, which heavily emphasizes the written word.
Thank you. Another question is, the LLM is primarily US law. How transferable is this for other jurisdictions such as the UK? And the second component of this question is there a dissertation option to study an area of interest in more detail or focused on another jurisdiction?
So that's a great question. A number of our courses, because we have so many international candidates in the program already, approximately 30 to 40% of our students are international. They focus, our courses do, at least in small part, on incorporating international issues within the curriculum. So the LLM will always have sort of a heavy US component, but is also doing comparative and comparative analyses, but then also looking at international frameworks as well. So in that vein, the LLM and the MSL is designed to acquaint students with US law. And even if it's an international student, the US law sort of offers a foundation to engage in or to discuss international issues.
Thank you. And we have someone making a request here regarding the course schedule. Is it possible to pop that in the chat or repost it or share that screen somewhere?
Sure, we can go back to it, and feel free to take a screenshot of it.
Okay, wonderful. And while you're doing that, Raj, I'll read out another question here. For those of us that are passionate about animal law, but do not have direct experience in the field, do you have any guidance or advice regarding our applications?
I can do a little bit, and then Raj, if you want to follow up. The reality is a lot of people that come and study with us haven't had the ability to study animal law where they are. And so that's not an uncommon thing, and we would encourage you to still apply. I think the important thing would be in your letter of interest to demonstrate why you're interested in studying animal law and how a degree would further whatever your long-term career goals are. But just to assure you, it is a beginning. We're further along now, but it's still a new field. So there are a lot of people that are in your exact situation, and those are the people we hope to reach, as well as people who have had the opportunity to have, you know, lots of study in animal law. But we have people from both completely different spectrums.
Yeah, and I'll just add, you know, my background was in literature when I applied to Lewis and Clark, their JD program. And I think one of the things that I tried to emphasize, and something that the admissions committee looks at heavily, is the student wants to, or this candidate wants to come to our program, but have they done the research to see how an animal law education will sort of further their particular interests? And so to the extent that you're able to articulate what areas of animal law you might be interested in, even if you have a general interest, is there something specific, and the type of work that you would want to do? And I think engaging in that kind of research will just inform your application and make your statement of interest and your candidacy, you know, stand out.
Thank you. Again, procedurally, I have another question here. Is the duration of the courses, if completed full-time over 4 semesters, is that 1 or 2 years?
So this would be, so if you started in fall, August 15th or August 29th of this fall, you would graduate by December of 2023. So it is just about 18 months.
Thank you. So we have a question here that I think is a really good one, and something that we should probably all be thinking about as we're having this conversation. Is this person's currently working, and they're asking what workload could they expect if they decided to join us for one of our online programs, and is it possible to balance both things at the same time?
I can answer kind of big picture, and then Dr. Reddy, if you want to give more specifics. The program is designed for flexibility so that we have students that have full-time jobs or family obligations or professional obligations, and the vast majority of our students are in that camp. That's what they're juggling. It is a lot of work, so we also don't want to, sometimes people think an online education is passive and that it's easy to do, and it is a lot of work that you'll have to engage in. But yes, it's possible to balance both, but you just have to be expecting that it's not going to be a cakewalk.
Yeah, and I'll say too, I mean, the way the courses are structured is such that because the modules open on Friday, you have that first weekend to get ahead and to get most, if not all, of the work done, which some of our students do. They just dedicate that first weekend to completing all of the work, and then they use sort of the rest of the week just to sort of tidy up. And then the following Friday, they actually, you know, get ahead on the next module. And so we have a number of students who, you know, are proactive about it. And so that allows them to be working full time and to fulfill their family and other obligations. And I'll say too, I'm glad we're on this slide. So we have two, let's just look at fall 22, for example. We have two 3-credit courses, Global Wild Animal Law and Crimes Against Animals. And so those courses are again in the fall semester, which is 13 weeks. There might be a 14th week for an exam. Emerging Topics in Animal Law is 1 credit, and it's a little bit shorter in terms of what's less work, approximately 33% of the work that you would have in a 3-credit course. But the course also usually runs, you know, 9 to 10 weeks, maybe 11, therefore allowing you a little bit of time there at the end of those 2 3-credit courses to focus on exam prep, if there's an exam for the course or a final project, or completing, you know, a long memo and the like. So we try to structure each semester to make it, to make the work doable. And most of our students find that once they get a couple of weeks in, they sort of figured out the rhythm.
Thank you for that. So we have a question from the time we submit our application about how long does it take to know if we are accepted into the program?
That's a great question. Approximately 1 week, just because the deadline to apply is July 15th. So the admissions committee actually meets that day or the day after, and they review all of the applications that have come in up to that point. And the process is very quick. I would add that if you are offered a scholarship, you'll have a set number of days, maybe 7 or so, to reply. Just because we want to make sure that scholarship funding is going to the next potential available candidate. So the process is very, very quick, and we get students registered for classes very quickly. There's an hour or an hour and a half long orientation that introduces students to our online platform, which is Canvas, and gets you set up with all of the library materials and all of the online resources that you would automatically get as a Lewis and Clark student, setting up your email and the like. So yeah, it happens very quickly.
Thank you. Another question here is from someone who has been out of school for 20 years. They hold a master's in public administration. They don't have any written samples from that time, and they're asking if they can submit a work document, which is unrelated to animal welfare, as part of the writing sample.
Yes, that's possible. We again want to make sure that that sample is mostly prose, and again, it just allows the admissions committee to assess the candidate's strengths as a writer, both for any sort of written assignments, but then also their ability to engage in discourse on a discussion board and the like. And so if you have a writing sample that you want to contextualize for the admissions committee, just have an introductory paragraph that does so, and that will help the admissions committee put your writing sample into the context in which you want us to be able to read it.
And the second part of this person's question is, as far as letters of recommendation, do we prefer to have those as singular documents or consolidate them all into one when they submit their application?
Yeah, we require only one letter of recommendation, and usually one letter of recommendation is all the admissions committee really wants. So yeah, one document, but that's the question I think still applies and is still applicable to transcripts. So if you have multiple degrees, note that in the online application, there's only one way or one area to submit your transcripts. So please consolidate those transcripts. Unofficial is fine, just for the application portion, but submit those transcripts as one document. And on the point of transcripts, note that if you are offered admission and accept, one of the conditions of your matriculation is that you submit to us the official copies of all your transcripts from all institutions of higher education. And so in particular for international students, that might be something that you want to get a handle on now, as opposed to closer to the fall semester, just to make sure that you've got all your boxes checked.
Thank you. And a follow-up question on the same topic or related to it is, can a candidate's acceptance be deferred to the following semester, or would one need to reapply?
A really good question. The answer is yes. There are a couple of nuances with that. Right now, we're expecting, we've already received a significant number of applications. So there's not a sense that we will be accepting applications for spring starts. And so have that in mind. To the actual question though, can you defer? And yes, you can defer to fall of 2023, But note that any scholarship offer that's attached, or scholarship that's attached to an offer of admission doesn't translate to the following year or the following term. Instead, you would be reconsidered for scholarship support.
Thank you very much. One question we have here, and I don't know if either one of you or you both could probably take this. Can you give us some examples of the emerging topics that are covered in animal law?
Sure. So I'll just say I taught emerging topics last year, and some of the subject areas that I covered included advancements in the creation of nonprofits that are doing legislative work and lobbying work, which takes them out of 501c3 and into 501c4 status, at least here in the US. We actually had a number of our graduates talk about the work that they're doing in this particular arena. We have, for example, you can see on our alumni page, Tess Vickery, who works for the Animal Justice Party in Australia, who's doing this work. We also have organizations here in Oregon who are doing this work. We also talked about the implications for animals as part of the pandemic, and vaccines was another particular topic. Others included some of the work that our alumni are doing to advocate for personhood for non-human animals back in their home countries. So again, just a number of really interesting and compelling topics. They're all decided, a semester at least beforehand, so they won't necessarily be in and of the moment. But the courses do inure themselves, the emerging topics courses do, to at least having those conversations, even if there aren't necessarily recorded lectures about them.
Thank you. And do remote students receive full access to online law library resources?
They do, yes.
Okay. Do you accept scanned / notarized copies of original transcripts?
For the application, we accept that. If a student is admitted, particularly this holds true for a lot of our international students, they mail us their transcripts, their official transcripts that have been stamped by their registrar. A lot of times students will have the schools send us directly those transcripts, and we require those transcripts in order to send them to the registrar to confirm that the student has actually completed all of the education that they have stated.
And we'll take one final question, but we're happy to drop our emails into the chat. And anyone who's watching us today and listening today, please feel free to reach out to any one of us with questions. And I'm just so thrilled that you all were able to join us today and that you're so engaged. These are fantastic questions. And I'll just wrap up with a consolidation of several of these questions. Do any of the special disciplines for the LLM studies address new litigation issues, such as the ones we're seeing at the Supreme Court level and their implications for animal law? And an example mentioned is today's decision on the EPA's limitations of action and the climate change. So would either one of you like to address that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say that's actually, the Juliana case, which was a climate change case, was one of the cases that we touched upon in my emerging topics course last fall. And to the extent that any of these new developments fall within sort of the purview of any one of these listed courses. So for example, one on climate change issues that implicate animal issues might be covered in industrial animal agriculture law or international law, or global wild animal law. And so to the extent, again, possible, the professors for these courses, even though they've developed them at least a semester beforehand, they try to integrate these into the curriculum, into those courses, just because they're important, they're critical, and they're the cutting edge and setting new precedents for these issues that affect animals.
Thank you. And we're at the hour here. So again, I just wanted to thank you all for joining us. We encourage you to reach out to any of us with questions. All of our emails are in the chat now. We hope to see you all soon as enrolled students. Professor Senatori, Dr. Reddy, thank you so much for your time today. Again, thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.